everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hope you all had a great weekend. And for those of you that celebrated St. Patrick's Day, I hope you've recovered from all of the food and the green drinks. Tonight, we have a brilliant member of our community here to impart some of his digital asset knowledge to us. We'll be joined by AussieGuy in just a few moments, but I have a couple things to share with you first. In exciting news, Europe's Parliament recently gave the green light to the Artificial Intelligence Act that's designed to ensure both safety and foster innovation. So basically, it's to give compliance and fundamental rights to the people using AI, with an overwhelming majority of the members of Parliament that were in favor of it. The act, it aims to safeguard democracy, and it basically is looking for environmental sustainability from potential risky AI technologies, therefore positioning Europe as one of the front runners in AI. So by categorizing AI applications based on their risks and impact levels, regulation sets out to ban certain practices like biometric categorization, emotional recognition in workplaces and schools, while also placing strict restrictions on law enforcement's use of the biometric identification systems. So moreover, the act, it actually imposes clear obligations on high-risk AI systems, mandating transparency, risk assessment, and human oversight to mitigate potential harm to health, safety, and democratic processes. So in parallel, measures supporting innovation and small and medium business enterprises are outlined, including established regulatory sandboxes for testing and development. The citizens' input from the Conference on Future for Europe, based on those things that they discussed, the Act seeks to uphold the values of competitiveness and trustworthiness and the responsibility of use of AI. So it's charting a course toward technology advance, but it's also protecting the people. So, it's ethically grounded for the future. This is exciting for Europe, and hopefully the U.S. is going to be next or shortly down the road. Definitely looking forward to it. So Google also has some exciting news. Google DeepMind just unleashed SIMA, S-I-M-A, into the gaming scene. Imagine an AI agent that doesn't just dominate games, but it collaborates with you as a dynamic sidekick. SIMA isn't your average gaming AI because it's groundbreaking leap into the future of immersive gaming experiences. It's trained on a diverse array of 9 video games, including fan favorites like No Man's Sky and Teardown. SIMA has mastered a range of skills and commands. And what's truly mind-blowing is that it doesn't need access to game codes or APIs. It just images and text instructions. Talk about playing like a human. SIMA has been put through its paces, tackling around 1,500 tasks across navigation. And it's resource gathering. This isn't just about gaming. It's about revolutionizing how we interact with AI, both in the virtual and real world environments. This is exciting stuff. You're going to be able to play a game with an AI and actually have it help you like an MMO. That is so cool. And why does it matter? Well, it's not just about upping our gaming experience. It's about paving the way for AI that can intelligently collaborate with humans in tasks beyond the virtual realm. So get ready to level up gaming, but also to look for much bigger things for all of us in the AI arena. And lastly, I wanted to share a cool tool that some of you who might need to reach across multiple language platforms might appreciate. There's this tool called Pipio, and it uses AI to translate your videos into different languages while keeping the original voice and syncing the lip movements to automatically, coincide with what's being said. It's pretty neat, especially if you're looking for how to reach audiences beyond your native language. So for some of you who might work in areas where you need to do like English and Spanish or English and French, this is a great way to be able to put one video out and have it translated for you. So here's how it works. You hop onto Pipio's website, you set up an account. Once you're in, you upload your video and you choose what language you want it translated into, and Pipio handles the rest. You hit submit and it does the work for you. And once it's done, you can either tweak it a little bit or you can just straight upload it right into your social media accounts. It's a straightforward process, and it can really broaden the reach of your videos and your audience, because now you can hit people that you really weren't able to hit with, translating it only into, without translating it into their language and just broadcasting it in your own. So it's really kind of cool. And, these are things that every day new projects and new programs are coming out. And hopefully you guys are capitalizing on this and going out there and checking them out. So right now, I'd like to just take a moment to thank all of our Patreon sponsors. We have DJ Marcus J, who is, here with us today, helping out. And while Blue is away, he's doing our slides for us tonight. But he's been one of our biggest cheerleaders and supporters of Crypto City since the beginning, and we're just really grateful. You've been here for a while. You've seen him. He's been on here as a guest. We also have Kip VR, who just walked in the door, and I'm not calling you out for being late. I'm thanking you for being a Patreon sponsor. And he built this world, and he built my avatar. He's done a lot of things to help improve this world. For those of you who have maybe not been here since the beginning of season 4, when you're leaving tonight after the show, go down the hallway and check out the Hall of Fame that we have on the other side that Kip did for us in our off season. It's absolutely beautiful. And over there, you can see a shot of all of the people who have been on the show so far. So that's just something that we want to give back to you guys as a thank you for being on the show. We also have Fuchsia, who's in the audience, and Fuchsia runs the virtual fitness group, and it's pretty amazing. Every day, people from all over the world are getting together to play FitXR, Les Mills, Supernatural, and they're just, sharing each other's fitness goals, getting together to do multiplayer versions in FitXR. It's pretty amazing. It's not only in Instagram, it's also on Facebook. And this past week, FitXR acknowledged that they're recognizing the virtual fitness group. So congratulations, Future, on all that you've done to bring so many people together and have us all step up our game. And then lastly, we have a new sponsor this week. Sato Mora has joined us. And I'm pretty excited about this. He was a guest on a couple of weeks ago. And, he is the graphic novelist that is actually making his stories about VR and using VR chat worlds as the backdrop for some of it. So it's pretty exciting. And we're really glad to have him on board with us. So thank you to all of our sponsors. We are very grateful for you helping us do the things that we are doing here, including what we're doing tonight. So tonight we are going to be bringing AussieGuy out, and he's going to come teach us about digital asset manipulation. So Aussie, please join us on the stage. Hey, Aussie.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Thank you for being here with us. Just go ahead and grab a seat. And I just want to remind everyone in the audience that this is a live broadcast. So if you could please mute, there might be some feedback coming from the audience. So Aussie, thank you for joining us tonight. We're super excited to have you here. We've had you on before as a guest. Tonight we're having you as a trainer. So this is exciting. Thank you.
Yes, it's great to be back, and it's great to be back sort of teaching again. I haven't done this for quite a while. It's been, I think the last classroom environment that I did was ProBuilder back in Altspace, and about 2 years ago. And that's when I was just starting to build. So it's been quite a journey since. So I'm very excited to go through with what I've learned in the last year. I mean, I talk about Unity and what I've learned, but I think AI has definitely changed and given me many great more capabilities with putting together worlds and generating textures and getting ideas. It's a very exciting space. It's been the last year has been very exciting to watch.
I love to hear that. AI is very dear to my heart. It's one of my favorite things that we get involved with. So I'm glad to hear that you're finding ways to incorporate that with what you do as well. So let's talk a little bit before you get started with the training. I just want to talk about, we just had the 1-year memorial of AltSpace. I know that was very near and dear to a lot of us here, yourself included. I heard that you have created a little memorial world that you're in the process of making live. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. Yes, so I was a little bit undecided about whether or not I wanted to put together a world. For me personally, I feel like I only really just got over the AltSpace shutdown grief maybe about September. So I went through like a grief cycle. And I would say by September I was kind of over, and the idea of March 10th coming around and that being a sad period, I wasn't really just didn't really want to go ahead with it, but I saw so many people just trying to get involved, and I had a change of heart at the last minute. So I put together a world, and it wasn't really up to standards. And so after the weekend, I kind of just redid it quickly, and I'm quite proud of it because it was something really simple that I did that I just felt like I did really well, and I'll be showing later later tonight how I built that world. And it's something that anyone can build.
That's super exciting, and I can't wait to see it. And I know that there's a lot of people here who, celebrated the anniversary. And we say celebrated, even though it seems like it was a sad thing. But what we're celebrating is the memories that we had over there, and the friendships that we made, and all of the experience that we brought with us into these other platforms. And it's funny because AltSpace, we often say, was one of the best platforms for doing events. And we've now tried to find our way in these other platforms. But one of the things I've noticed is that people like Kip and Marcus are like pushing to bring the things that we had, the capabilities we had in AltSpace, into these other platforms. The technology is probably there for most of it, but it's undiscovered in some cases, and in other cases it's there and discovered, but it needs a little bit of finessing and fine-tuning. And we've been seeing a lot of this stuff pop up regularly from them, and we appreciate that you're giving us back a lot of the technology that we had. So I mean, that's very exciting. And you still have your website as a great resource for many people to go to and get, technical information from. I'm sure some of the stuff we'll see tonight is probably stuff that you touch base on your website as well. Do you want to mention that a little bit?
Yes, so my main focus right now is vrcreators.net. You will see a little bit of it coming up. Essentially, I've consolidated all my Unity information that I had on my AussieGuy 92 website, which was more AltSpace focused. And so I've kind of consolidated it, figured out what was still relevant, and basically rebuilt a new website. And I started building that website just before AltSpace shut down, and so I've been working on it for over a year. And I recently overhauled it to try and make it more user-friendly. But one of the problems with running a website like this is that stuff eventually breaks. So while I was recording, I noticed that the wiki search menu that suggests articles based on what you're looking for doesn't work. So it's a never-ending job trying to run a website like that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and there's so much content.
Oh, yeah. I'll be showing you a little bit of the content and how the wiki section works, because that's the gold mine where I just put together notes that I've struggled, figured something out, and I'll just document it put it up on my wiki so that anyone else who's struggling can easily find it.
Great. We will make sure when we upload these slides and everything to the Discord that we put the website links in there so that people will be able to get to it. So don't worry if you missed it. We'll definitely post it for you guys so you'll have access to it. So let's get started with the training. I think we'll be ready for the slideshow.
Thank you, Marcus. So that's on the left up there, you can see the homepage of VR Creators. So it has the wiki section there. There's different categories to browse. There's one dedicated to Udon, there's one for Unity, there's one for Lighting. I've also referenced a lot of the documentation you can find on ProBuilder, ProGrids, and Polybrush up there. We could probably move to the next slide. I'll show you just basically how the website works. It's no different to how any traditional wiki website works. You can search. If you can play that video, hopefully that should play. There we go. I think there might be about 200 articles, wiki entries I've done, just documenting simple processes.
Wow, 200. That's crazy. That's so much information.
Yeah, there's some of them is there. Some of the posts are still normal blog posts that I haven't transitioned from because that's how the old format was on my old website. Mm-hmm. Quite a big website to maintain. So moving over to the next slide. One of the, like I was talking about before, AI, can't escape it. And one of the exciting things I've been using AI for is generating textures. Now, Ponzu was one I discovered a few months ago, and at the time that I was trying to record over the weekend, this website was a little bit offline. But I'll tell you about the next one, which is almost identical. Now Polycam, you can type in like a keyword, a texture type, and it will generate about 3 or 4 textures. So I've used it to generate grass. You can do one for moss, rocks, and there's a video attached to just give you a bit of a demo. And the reason why I mentioned the other website is that sometimes these websites do go down. The other one I've had to, I haven't been able to access for a while, then I was able to access. So I've been generating textures like crazy, and I save them all to a folder. So I always have them.
So let me ask you. So you go to these websites and you say, okay, I want a white wood grain texture because I'm going to put down plank floors in this house that I'm building. And you tell it what you're looking for and it generates it for you, and you save it and you can bring it in as a texture, whether it's in Unity or Blender or whatever you're using it in. So you're actually, whatever you're coming up with for a random texture, like let's use this floor, for example, black marble, so that you put that in there and it generates it for you in a file that's usable. Do you have the option of saving it as different file types to use in different types of programs?
I believe they save as PNG. You can, they're both freemium, so there is an option for Polycam to pay for a higher res, but you do get, I think it's up to 7. I can't see the resolution up there, but it's reasonable, and it's free, and you can pay for it, of course, if you want to have that high res. But
that's one of the nice things is a lot of them give you a free version, which is really nice, so that everybody has access to it.
Yeah, and it's all great until it's no longer freemium. Then you have to pay for it. So I've kind of been hoarding textures for the last year, I have to admit. For that reason, because you don't know where the licensing's going to, you don't know what's going to happen with the terms and the licensing and all that. So I'm just doing textures. So if we can move on to the next slide, I will show you another.
And that really is one of the things with AI is right now we have all of this available to us at our fingertips to go out there and play around with. At some point we won't. So, it will be at cost, because they've been trying to use us. Well, I shouldn't say us, but I mean those of us who are using it, they're using us as the test subjects. So, get to push it out there and make it popular. And once it's popular, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Okay, so here we go with this slide.
So another example of a freemium solution is Blockade Labs. Their skyboxes. I believe this skybox. I wouldn't know, but if I was to take a guess, it's from here. But they generate beautiful skyboxes, and in the recent months, they've made it so that you can, if you're a free user, you'll get a watermark, and if you're looking at the screen, you'll see there's a watermark. So you might be thinking, okay, you can't really do anything with it. But what I've discovered is, if you look at that lovely skybox, that's a really good concept art for a world. You have the detailing, you have the walls, you have the deck, the terrain. And so I've actually been using this website for inspiration for worlds.
Okay, see, so it still serves a purpose.
Yeah. And you still get 15 generations. So if I want to come up with a new idea for building, I don't know where I want to go with it, I can just generate an idea and go from there. So I just paying for the watermark removal might be something that people, but for me, I think it's a hidden tool. So if we can go to the next slide.
I think too, I mean, even if people are, like you said, there's a watermark, maybe you don't want to pay for it. But if you were building a world for a client who was willing to pay for it, I mean, it's a great solution, And if you're using it for inspiration, it doesn't matter so much what's on it, because you're just kind of taking ideas from it. But for those people who, are serious and, businesses coming in here and wanting to design a world, that's probably a great way for, them to go out there, find a beautiful skybox, download it, and, test out a few until they find the one they want. Once they find the one they want, pay for that particular one.
Absolutely. Now, ChatGPT, I've been using it for over a year now, and I wish I started using it sooner. Obviously, when it comes to website running content, I spent the first 2 years writing it all just by hand, and and then discovering ChatGPT, I realized that I could probably I could do 5 times the amount of work in a fraction of the time. It was such a wake-up call. I felt like I had wasted all those hours. I mean, not wasted, but just seeing what you can do with the volume of work with AI. And being tech savvy, having a slight advantage, I've been able to leverage that, particularly with learning Udon scripting. So I would ask ChatGPT, for example, up there to generate a teleport cube. So a little button where you click and it'll teleport you somewhere. And even that little script, I had to correct it a few times because I didn't know anything. And it's amazing that you still learn quite a bit just by messing around and being told 100,000 times that this method isn't exposed to Udon, and it's it's a common error that I have to work through, and it's a lot of fun. And there's just so many things that you can do with ChatGPT in general. Again, you can if you pay for it, you can tell it to generate any sort of picture, any bit of concept art.
I personally use it all the time. ChatGPT is like one of my very favorite things. I use it pretty much every day. And I mean, you just said is exactly true. You put in what you want, but you still got to sit there and a lot of times and tweak it, massage it, because you might not have put exactly the right request into it. I actually, ChatGPT has a feature where when you're asking it to do like more narrative stuff, if you ask it to do something and it comes back and underneath it'll ask you, do you like this or do you not like this? Well, the last couple times that I've put in, like, I was like, nah, this isn't what I asked for. This is exactly what I just put in. I'm looking for something different. And I definitely went back and read it and was like, no, I asked. So when I put the no, it came up and it said reasons for why it wasn't the right answer. And one of them was ChatGPT's being lazy. And I was like, that's exactly what just happened. ChatGPT was being lazy. It kicked me back the same response twice with totally different requests. So when I put that in, it came back and said, I'm sorry. And I was like, that's the best. It just apologized to me. So I was like, it's okay, but can we try again like this? And then the next thing that came through was perfect. So, and I know we've talked about this on a couple of the episodes about being nice to the AI, because you never know when AI might end up becoming more than it is. So I always say good afternoon, thank you, please. Like, I always use niceties, and now it started coming back to me with responses that says, you're welcome, have a good afternoon. Like, it says a lot of that stuff to me now because I've trained it that I want to be a little bit more friendly with it so that it remembers me when it starts to take over the world. No, I'm just saying. So are we going? We're going to the next slide now.
Yes. Yeah, always be nice to AI.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I just asked ChatGPT to spit out some usage for AI for VR related purposes. Some of them are I didn't even think of myself, but there's a few up there. Particularly when it comes to planning events, you could write scripts, you could generate a banner. The possibilities are endless, but you kind of just can't really think of it off the top of my head because there's just so much. It really depends on what you want to do, and I feel like people in general don't really understand what they can do because they don't think it's possible. You can level up any sort of skill that you have, whether or not you want to get some clarity about a situation or hypothetical situation. What would be the right thing to do? You could ask a bot what would be the right thing to do. You could ask it to help you write a resume. It could write marketing material, an email, newsletter, and like you just said before, you can add to it. You can tell it, oh, I want it done this way, so that if you need to print, basically get something, you can program it to spit out something. If you give it this, it will reorganize it and give it back to you in the way that you want. And it doesn't work all the time, but it's getting better. So if we can just move to the next slide.
It's definitely improving. And also, I think that, we talked last season about prompt engineering, and, I sit there and every time I ask it to give me narrative, I give it all the parameters of what I want it to sound like when it comes back to me. There are times when I want it to be very professional. There's other times where I want it to be conversational. I might want to, I might put in a bunch of information and ask it to consolidate it down and put it into terms that an average person could understand, because I deal with a lot of stuff that's tech related that people, I'm not going to be able to explain that to people in those terms. I need to, regurgitate it into something that is a little bit, more layman speak so that people understand what you're talking about. The only way you're going to get people to be excited and join you is if they understand. If you're talking over their heads, they just don't buy into it, so it's really great for that. And it is like when you said about using it to create things for within VR. I mean, there are times when I will be driving and I use my Siri a lot. She's probably one of my closest friends, even though she hates my accent. It's okay. But I use her all the time, and I'll be driving and I will spit out like, all of the ideas of what I want to do for an agenda on a show. So I will throw all the ideas out there. So she's recording it. I get home, I copy and paste it into ChatGPT and I say, merge this into an agenda format, and I give it some parameters and it spits it back out for me. And then now it looks like a professional document. The thoughts are all there. I'm doing all the work, but it's making it be a finished, polished document for me. There are other times when I'm like, you know what? I'm tapped out on coming up with social media ideas for like my business outside of here. And I will just say, give me 5 ideas. And then I'll pick one of them and I'll say, expand on this. And then it kicks it back to me and I go in and I tweak it so that it's, I make sure it's what I'm actually looking for. And I'll put my own tone onto it so that it sounds like something that's coming from me, because I don't want it to sound too, robotic. But I've now finessed the prompt engineering enough that it's starting to sound like what I would put into it. So it's been pretty good lately.
Yes, very, very powerful stuff. So a couple of things that I use ChatGPT personally for, just on the screen up there. One of the great things that I personally, and there's no shame here, but sometimes I'll read something and I just can't get my head around it. So I will ask it to explain it to me like I'm a 16-year-old, because that's sort of like high school level, and it kind of dumbs it down a little bit. And then I find that usually gives me a basic general understanding of what it is. And then I can just go back and then I can ask for the full-on explanation, and then I'll be able to understand it then. And going from, and this has happened many times as well, go from not understanding a simple concept to having a broader understanding of something, just because I've been able to break it down and kind of just ask ChatGPT those questions where I'd be too ashamed maybe or embarrassed to ask anyone those questions. I'd be like, hey, does this mean that? So it's one of the great things that I love. And when it comes to writing website blog posts, getting advice on SEO, it's just limitless. Yeah.
So it's definitely something that benefits in every area of life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we could probably head to the next slide. But it's also just great to not be at the mercy of search engines.
Mm-hmm.
And so something else I've been exploring is just generating my own little apps. So on the screen, I've created I did this in October, and I couldn't tell you exactly how it works, but it pipes through so what you're looking at is a thumbnail for Banter. So all the events that are happening on Banter at the moment, they get pushed through Discord and they end up on the website. And I've taken that website and imported the data as a JSON and appeared that on my websites. And I've also added a event system so people can sign up and register events. Now, I kind of got really enthusiastic about this project, and I started using ChatGPT, started doing a PHP backend, and it got really complicated because although AI is really great, you can tell it to make me a PHP login system, and it will tell you that, you need to create a database, you need to have a user tables with passwords, hashed email address, and all that. But there's so many complications when running an event, a website like this. So obviously, I'm trying to recreate the Altspace event listing. But one of the things ChatGPT won't tell you about is the complex process of converting time zones. So something that I did, I created a HTML page that told me what time it was in various cities. So I have it as a browser tab. I click on it, it will tell me what time it is in any city that I want. I just made it using ChatGPT. And it worked so well until I wanted to show it off in this presentation. I went to the tab and the times are wrong.
Oh,
because of the recent daylight.
Daylight savings.
And for whatever reason, it didn't update. But even my time zone, which hasn't changed yet, was still wrong because it's based on the universal coordinated time, which is off or out of sync. So many things can break. So when it comes to working out what time an event starts, can users edit an event once it's started? All those complex things turns into a massive headache. So I'm kind of sitting on this project, but it's kind of back to the drawing board in the meantime. So
okay, but it's definitely a good project to be working on.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very excited. Um, so I won't spend. So if we head head to the next slide. Wanted to get a
So what do
little
we
bit
have
into the
here?
Unity stuff.
Okay.
Just a couple of resources quickly for if you're looking for VRC assets. Booth is a great website. I also found GitHub is also a fantastic website, and many of the codes that I can find are only on GitHub. They're not really on Booth. And of course, we've got the VRC prefabs website, which has a fancy spreadsheet that just lists all the prefabs that you can find. Just wanted to share that.
For those of you who aren't familiar with the prefab, is basically you going in and getting an asset that already is created instead of creating it from scratch. So for example, like this couch here, this couch Kip created from scratch. He took made it from the shapes and manipulated it in software and created it. You could go into these different websites and you can find pretty much like stock couches that already exist that somebody has already taken the time to create, and you can download them sometimes they're free, sometimes you have to pay for them, and then sometimes you can manipulate them in other software once you've brought them down. So that's what a prefab is.
And I've said it better than myself. Just wanted to touch base on that. If we can head to the next slide. Now, one of the hidden gems of Unity is ProBuilder. I've been talking about ProBuilder now for probably 2.5 years, and ever since I discovered it, I haven't been able to stop using it, so much so that I still haven't really, I'm still falling behind in Kip's Blender classes. But I wanted to show how to find ProBuilder, because I've worked with a different couple versions of Unity, and sometimes you just cannot find it. And so one of the things you need to do is enable experimental packages. And if you were to look up the troubleshooting for this, it will tell you to do that. But I still found when I went to the latest Unity for VR chat that I still could not find ProBuilder, could not find ProGrids, could not find Polybrush. And I really like to have these three together. So what you can do is you can go up and you can manually add a package. Now, if you look on the screen, you'll see com.unity.probuilder. If you add by package name, you can manually add it, and then it will auto-install.
Now, is ProBuilder like a little world builder within Unity that's kind of like a straightforward, I shouldn't say straightforward because nothing about Unity is straightforward, but more like it's more user friendly instead of building like completely from, the blank screen with a cube and a sphere.
I like to think ProBuilder is somewhere in between Unity and Blender, and in fact, it's all in Unity. But I find that the advanced tools that Blender has, you don't generally need if you're starting out. So I found that Blender was very overwhelming. There's lots of shortcuts, keys that you need to know, and if you don't have a great teacher like Kip, it's quite overwhelming.
He is a good teacher, and it is still overwhelming, but it is. We're in I think we're on week 14 coming up, or class 14, I should say. And our little house is coming along. It's coming along. We've got windows, doors. We got a roof. We got a little, secret rooms in the basement. We're good. It's good. Kidding about the secret rooms in the basement. He's gonna yell at me for that one later. But yeah, so all right, so this is something people who are using Unity or Blender may want to look into to have a little additional resource of a program there. And
that's where we transition to the next slide. That that com.unity.package is just a great way just to add something. I've struggled trying to add ProBuild and ProGrids, and so many people ask me, just do this, do that. So I just thought I'd throw it in there. If you're still wondering what ProBuilder is, I will be showing how I built this world. This is the Alt Space Memorial world that I did over the last week, and it's very simply made, no complex shapes, but I'll be showing you how I went about doing this, and I'll talk you through if we want to head off to the next slide. And there's no audio to this, but I start out with a ProBuilder. I put down a basic plane, and I'm not measuring out anything. I'm just doing this. I did this late last night, so I'm just going to recreate that room. And I tell you one thing, as I was recording this last night, I was imagining, everyone's watching me right now. And like, So if you see me just take like a 5-second pause, I'm just trying to collect myself because I'm just picturing myself. And I'm going over to my materials, putting down some basic colors just so that I could see it. Now I'm doing the archway. And the latest version of ProBuilder has these really cool handles on the side where you can just stretch it. Mm-hmm. I could, in theory, go to the face selection tool and grab any of the faces on any of the edges and drag it and do what I want with it. But those handles, though, are separate and allows me just to stretch it if I didn't size it correctly the first time.
Similar to a Bezier curve.
Yeah. You've been learning. You must be Kip's top student.
He's out there laughing right now. I'm like, it looks like a Bezier curve. Actually, I have a background in Photoshop, so we do them in there as well. But it definitely is more challenging over here for sure. And so look at that little dome, just like that.
Yeah, it doesn't look much, but it does. It all begins to happen pretty quickly. Now, something that I spent like 12 hours last week trying to figure out why my scene wasn't baking correctly. But when you build something with ProBuilder, you get like a default texture that's like a grid. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize this, but it's double-sided and it's emissive. So when I try to create like a dark room that I'm recreating right now, when I baked it, it was still light as day inside, and I could not work it out. It wasn't my light settings, my directional light, and I just could not work it out. Then I realized, had I just changed the material from the ProBuilder default material to something else, it would have fixed itself. So that was kind of a really silly thing that I did.
Yeah, but that's something that probably happens to many people and they don't understand why. So now that's something that you just shared, and hopefully people who are working in this will be like, oh, that's why, And those are the kinds of things that you put in your wiki section of your website, because you work on these things and you spend the time trying to figure it out. And then once you solve it, you can share it with others and save them infinite amount of time.
Mm-hmm. With this example, I didn't spend any time UV mapping because I was just doing a demo, but normally I would stretch out the wood across the walls so that they would be the right height and width and wouldn't look skewed. But they looked reasonable just out of the box, so I didn't change any of the UVs. Plus, I wanted to save a bit of time.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you who are not world builders and don't play around in this stuff, I mean, all those little spheres that you see there, those are the materials and textures that you can apply to the different surfaces within the structure that you're building. So it's, kind of like you say, oh, well, those of you who are in these worlds right now, like, oh, I want a marble floor. You grab it and apply it to the floor. I want a black couch, and you can apply colors. You can also go in and adjust the colors and the surfaces the textures that are in there by, making them more or less reflective, making them, lighter and darker. So a lot of the things that that see and hear in these different worlds that you visit within VR, a lot of thought goes into the design that's in there. And this is similar to how that is achieved, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times people take it for granted that it's just like, poof, oh, well, these awesome things are here. But they don't realize, you're sitting there and you're putting together color palettes and schemes and like, how do I want this world to look? And go in and you do it and you're like, it's not what I wanted, start over again and change it up and stuff. There's a lot of it's just like doing the interior design of a house or a business. It's a lot of thought and creativity that goes into it.
So just catching up with what I'm doing on scene, I apologize for my lighting tab because I was recording off one screen, so I had to make sure I had everything in front of me. I've had to put the walls and the archways on static. I've also just baked a reflection probe, and I've put that in the middle, and I've just stretched it so that it's picking up all the reflections in the room. And I've just popped down a bakery light. Most people who do lighting, they'll use the conventional lights, but me personally, I'm a big fan of bakery, which is just another light mapper that you can use. It's not free, but it is on special occasionally where you can pick it up for a good price. And I find that it allows me to bake my scene a lot quicker. And yeah, big fan of it. You're just about to see me do a render where I put down a couple of lights. I'm just double checking my settings because I'm working in the same project that my Alt Space Memorial world is in. A lot of the setup for bakery is already done, so I can basically just hit render and it will do that for a couple of minutes.
So for those of you who do use Unity or Blender who want to play around in ProBuilder, this is probably a good example for you to watch, repeatedly to see all the different little things that he's doing in here and learn the different techniques and commands within it.
Yep. Yeah. And the most painful part is just waiting for it to bake because you don't know if you've done something right or done something wrong, or you're going to have to redo it again. This wasn't a particularly long bake. It goes pretty quick, but it's just long enough where it's just really awkward just to wait for. So usually by now I'd go make a cup of coffee or have a drink or run the bins out, come back, and hopefully it's done. And there's lots of things that you can do to optimize the speed that scenes are baked. So you can reduce the texture size, the quality, apply compression, and you can also map the UVs so that you use less repeating tile. What does that mean, using less tile? Well, you imagine times that you've been up really high in the world and you look down and you see the grass and you see a particular tile pattern in the grass because you're so high up, it just looks like the picture's repeating. Something that you can do to reduce the world load and the file size is reducing the amount of times that picture is copied across the terrain. So it's by stretching out the UVs, you'll have less repetitions of the same image across the terrain. meaning less
Mhm.
file size is needed. So
Sure.
so little things like that help because they improve the baking time as well to some degree. It all adds.
Hmm.
Now I just done and whoops, made a mistake. What did I do? I didn't stretch the reflection probe all the way, and I believe I didn't make that last wall on static. So you see that it's still really, really bright. So you'll take me a second to figure out what's going on there. So I'll click on that wall eventually and realize my mistake.
So unfortunately, a mistake like that costs you plenty of time, but you don't, like you were saying, you don't know until after it's done doing what it did.
Mm-hmm. So I realized my mistake, putting it back on static, and I think the next thing I'm going to check the reflection probe as well, just because I didn't quite bring it over quite enough. But realizing my mistake, I kind of just wanted to just push through, and I was planning to sort of go and fix it out of video. So I wanted to change the archway and just do something with it. So I'm selecting all the faces, and I'm going to the top, and I'm selecting those faces. So I'm mirroring the other side of the arch, and it's just, and then I merge those faces together, and then I shift, hold, and push through and push up, and it gives me a little bit of an inset, and then I go inside again. And you can do this with any sort of shape. You can subdivide a cube, a square. So you can imagine if you had just a simple square, you inverted it, you could push out, create a doorway, and then you push in, push out, and create a little mansion, anything you want. It's just pushing in. Now, it's not as easy. It's a little bit fiddly compared to using some of the tools in Blender that I've seen, especially when it comes to making even cuts into a plane. It's a little bit harder to do. You have to be a little bit more accurate.
And just like that, you get a skylight.
Mm-hmm. And the best part is that I can change any of this and come back to it and edit. So if I upload it, I go in and be like, oh, that should be a little bit lower. I can make that adjustment. Back in AltSpace, you couldn't. Some platforms strip the ProBuilder scripts when you upload them. So I'm not sure about other platforms like Utopia, but you may be required to sanitize your scene before you upload them. And the easiest way to do it is there is a button within ProBuilder that allows you to strip the scripts, which basically just gets rid of them, and you can convert it to a mesh. But then you wouldn't be able to edit that mesh again. So what I did as a workaround is before I hit upload, I would go file, save it as a separate scene, and then upload that, and then keep the originals. So it didn't matter if the strips or the ProBuilder scripts got stripped from it. I would still be able to go back and make edits. So that was my workaround in AltSpace, and may still be relevant to other platforms.
So what's actually happening right now? Because now we've got, we've got the lighting is a little bit different. You've brought up the roof of the house, of the building, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's possible to speed up to maybe almost the end, that'd be great. I'm just doing a quick bake. Pause. Thank you, Marcus. Doing a fantastic job.
He is. He's been great. Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, just get to the end of the bake. There we go. So that's kind of why I ended. I decided at this to sort of stop recording because I didn't want this to drag on and on and on longer than it had to. But I wanted to sort of start enough of the process and just show that it is possible. But if we go to the next slide, we'll see what I ended up with. Yeah. So just hit play. I added a cube. You will see it at the end, but I added a cube just to block out any additional light, which meant that I had to put a skylight in manually because there was no exterior light, obviously shining in from the roof. So I added additional lights. I added the additional arches in the middle across. And that's pretty much how I built my memorial world. I mean, it's a very simple shape. It's the same shape there. So I just wanted to show you just with using ProBuilder, using simple shapes, you can create really beautiful original worlds.
And many of the worlds that we see start from a cube. And there's
absolutely
into something that's magnificent. So when will this world be ready for everybody to see?
It is published. I'm still going to be working on it for, I'd say, the next 3 months.
Okay.
There are so many photos I haven't. Yeah, but I might even have to do 2 worlds.
So that's cool. And it's in here in VRC?
Yep, it's on VR chat. If people click on me, they can find it in my worlds.
Okay.
It's on my profile. That's another way, or they could type in alt space VR memories.
Okay, great. And I think the next slide actually has your contact information too. If we want to go to that one, it'll have your Instagram, so people can go there as well. If they should follow you, go to your websites, and this is the best way to get in touch with Aussie, or if you have questions, like he talked about, his websites are a very valuable resource. We'll post all of this in our Discord as usual so that you can go on there and maybe grab, the links to go check out some of this stuff, as well as rewatch the video if you wanted to try and learn some stuff in ProBuilder. And, I appreciate you coming on tonight and sharing all this with us and, giving us there was some good links at the beginning as well for different, AI websites and different digital asset resources. So, definitely go on and check out this episode and go into Discord and get a copy of the slides, because all the links will be in the slides, and that way you'll at least be able to get some resources for yourself. So thank you very much, Aussie. This has been very enlightening. Always good to have you on. Appreciate all the effort you put in to make that slideshow. It was great with all the videos and everything. Next slide that comes up is actually next week's guest is going to be Second Life Rich. He is going to come on. He actually runs Lux VR, which if any of you have been to, Power Hour or to Iced Out Thursdays, you always will see people walking around with the gold chains and the, actually we have Cyber Shay is here right now. She wears a lot of them. She's one of the representatives of Lux VR. They have chains and t-shirts and everything else. And And he's actually the husband of Brown Diamond, who was on last week with the VR fitness group. So we get a lot of, VR going on here between our community, and sometimes it expands further into the household than people realize. So we'll hear a little bit about that next week when Rich comes on. And thank you again, Aussie, and thank all of you for coming out tonight to hear about digital assets. And I want to say thank you to my crew, Loudfire and Marcus tonight. And Blue, I saw you sneak in on the side over there. You're not without being sought. So thank all of you, and we hope to see you all again next Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. And have a great week, everyone.